Hello and welcome to Telling the Tale. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolf, and I'm here, as always, with co-host Dustin Jackson. Hey, Dustin, how's it going?
I'm losing my mind over this week's CSI.
Okay. I don't think that's... I guess that's sort of what happened, in the sense that... No, actually,
People
I don't
died.
know. People died.
Yeah,
You would die if you lost your brain, so...
That wasn't even supposed to be a joke. I couldn't remember what happened. Here's the thing I'm running into with these episodes. Yeah. I went through like every episode except this one, trying to remember what happened in this episode, and then I remembered what happened in this episode.
Yeah, I will say this episode is actually somewhat memorable to me. I call this the ultimate fuck you case in my notes here.
Yeah. You said it when we were playing through it. You said it felt like the episodes got worse and worse as we went.
They got worse and worse, and then I would say this one is better. Like, it's an uptick at the very end.
Okay.
Because in your eyes, the case 4 with the... that one was just so nothing.
Yeah, it was just kind of bland. And like, it ended with 2 people just admitting to do it, and then you just had to figure out which one it was. I get that that's like kind of an interest. It's different, but you know, it just didn't really amount to much, I guess.
Well, before we talk about this week's episode in earnest, I do want to take a moment to talk about some other stuff. We can sort of summarize our feelings with the game hard evidence as a whole. And also, we should probably touch on some news that, if you're into Telltale stuff, you will be excited about this news.
You will be.
Ron Gilbert is making a comeback, baby. Although he's been back, but his touch on Monkey Island specifically is making a comeback. He is making Return to Monkey Island, the new and forever, I guess, actual Monkey Island 3.
Wow.
The game that's always supposed to have been Monkey Island 3. It got superseded with Monkey Island games by other people at LucasArts and then Telltale for Monkey's Island 3, 4, and 5. But he's back, and he's actually working on this, so this is a big deal. This is it's kind of a Half-Life 3, Banjo 3, like, level of, oh, well, this'll never happen. Final Fantasy VII Remake, although that one did. Yeah, like, this'll never come to pass. This'll never happen.
Because Monkey Island got multiple games, but like this is the first one since Monkey Island 2 that has the actual creator on board.
Yeah.
Or like in the driver's seat of it. Because I think Tails like had him in some capacity, like not actually working on it, but I think he was like there to hear their ideas for a day.
Yeah, well, not for a day. He was a consultant with Telltale.
Yeah.
He was somewhat heavily involved, but he was not the creative director. He was not the creative force.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not his game.
This is his first Monkey Island game since 2, and that's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal, especially considering that Thimbleweed Park, I would say, is in like the top 5 point-and-click adventures of all time.
Wow, top 5. I'll need to actually sit down and play it sometime.
You've said that for a year since we got started with this podcast.
I've been saying that nonstop.
That's true. But I think I don't even know what I would put above it. I mean, I personally would put Sam & Max, The Devil's Playhouse, above it.
I do like Devil's Playhouse.
I would put Loom, but I like Loom more than I think other people like Loom. Well, not like a lot. People generally like Loom. But yeah, it's up there. It's a good game. And that was Ron Gilbert's previous game with the same team, Terrible Toy Box, which is Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman of Telltale relevance. and a bunch of other people from like older LucasArts era adventure game stuff as well, all together in Terrible Toy Box. They're being supported by Lucasfilm over at Disney, which makes me and Ron Gilbert similar in that way. And and it's being published by Devolver. So yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, awesome. What were your feelings when this was first announced?
So yeah, I went through sort of a roller coaster with it, which is like, first I didn't realize the context about it being Real 3 or whatever. I just saw, oh, he's making a new Monkey Island and there's a new one. And then I was over the moon. I was very, very excited. Although I did have an inkling it was coming because I told you the night before it was coming.
Yeah.
Because I read his blog post where he says, I never make April Fool's jokes, so this April Fool's, let me just tell you, I've decided to make a new Monkey Island. And that was the entire blog post. Ballsy, I'll say. Like, that was the way he announced his game, technically. Although, a few days later, the trailer confirmed it. That's really the announcement, but...
Yeah, the official announcement of some... Well, I guess, his would be an official announcement, too, being the creator and all, but, it's one thing having someone just say it's happening, and it's another actually seeing a trailer.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think I had some mixed emotions about what it meant for Curse, Escape, and Tales. Especially as a fan of Tales, I quite like the Telltale one. But then I thought about it more, and it's like, I'm not curious about what happens after Tales, but I do in general want more Monkey Island. And this is literally that. It's not what's after Tales, but it is more Monkey Island. And it's probably the only part of like the timeline that is interesting to talk about, because there was supposed to be this adventure in the Ron Gilbert version of events that will now be seen for the first time. Like it's back to what I said. Like it's one of those dream games. So yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm very, very, very excited.
That actually is more or less exactly what my opinions were on it too. Because like when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, awesome, a new Monkey Island." But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, "Oh, but I like what comes after too. I like Curse. I like Curse in Tales at least. I never played Escape, but." I kind of had a similar feeling where I was like, well, I do like those games, but I feel like it's more important that Ron Gilbert gets to see his Monkey Island 3 get made than to continue off of Tales. And also, like, we've seen stuff like Crash Bandicoot 4, for example. That went back to right after Crash 3. And, I love Crash 4. That was great. So this is basically the same deal, but arguably even bigger since Ron Gilbert's back on it. So yeah, that got me more on the hype train for it. So now, yes, I'm extremely excited for it and cannot wait.
Yeah, at the rate that we've been playing adventure games, we'll probably finish it in one day. Just because we've been training for the last year to blast through
This is what we've been training for. We've been building up to this moment.
Yeah, without, like, skimming, we've been able to fast read our way through adventure games for the last year in an effort to put it behind us and not keep it in the present. So I'm afraid that I'll accidentally push too hard too fast on Return to Monkey Island, but I'm very excited for that game. I would be excited for the second Terrible Toy Box game regardless of the context, and it happens to be a very, very cool context.
I think before Return to Monkey Island comes out, I'm going to try to play through all the prior Monkey Island games, even though, you don't need to play Curse through Tales, I still want to. And, we're going to get to Tales eventually anyway. And B, play Thimbleweed Park just to see, like, okay, well, this was This specific team by Ron Gilbert, this was their first game, so that'll be interesting to experience before this new one comes out.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I think that's a good call. I bet
if I don't have the time, I'll just do Monkey Island 1 and 2 and then Thimbleweed. But I have been wanting to play all of them, so I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like some characters from the later Monkey Island games will appear, especially Murray the Skull appeared in the trailer. Although,
well, if you
it might be,
if you remember, Ron made a blog post way back in 2013 that he has recently edited to say, look, don't look at these Monkey Island rules anymore. I don't really follow. I'm a different person now. But one of the...
How recently did he say that?
He posted that right after the trailer went out. He went back and updated that blog post and was like, look, I know you people are coming back to look at these rules. Just know I don't stand by all these anymore. But one of them said... even though this isn't taking place in that continuity with Curse and everything, he's not above taking characters and concepts from them.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Yeah, take the good stuff. Like, we see Murray. That's cool. Honestly, I can't really think of too many other things I would want to come back from the other ones.
It reminds
as much
me,
as I love them.
Yeah, remember those YouTube videos that got pretty popular a long time ago? That were about the Star Wars prequels. It was like a guy in front of a green screen, and he goes, "What if the Phantom Menace was good, like really good?" And then,
like really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was what he said. And then he he basically gave an alternative timeline for Star Wars prequels that took a lot of the ideas and stuff from the prequels, like Padme and Obi-Wan teaching Anakin, and even some extra stuff like I think Jar Jar was in it, but like rewritten in a new way to say like, okay, well this would have been a way to do it in the past that sets up the original trilogy, that is done in a solid way, and people generally liked those videos and agreed that would have been solid. I at first was viewing this Monkey Island game as what if what happened after 2 was it included basically that stuff, but done in the way that it like quote unquote should have been done in. But it turned. Ron Gilbert posted on Twitter later, basically saying we are trying to make this canon. He didn't expand on what that means to himself. I think the idea of making something canon is a very nebulous concept.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about that because I guess at the end of the day it doesn't matter since he did say don't really listen to this blog post anymore.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he was adamant.
He was saying like the reason he wanted this to be his Monkey 3 and not really pay too close attention to the other ones is just because he didn't want the baggage of needing to stick to he wanted to do his Monkey Island 3. And he even said, I really enjoyed Curse of Monkey Island. I thought what they did with the world was great. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool that he enjoyed other people's take on his world. But yeah, that's a little confusing to me since I would assume he would still want that to just be able to do his story. But yeah, he's saying like, it doesn't decanonize anything after. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see exactly.
I think it's worth noting he didn't say that. Like, he didn't say that specifically, that it doesn't decanonize anything after. He's just said it is canon. It's a very wobbly idea, I guess.
I thought he specifically said we're not decanonizing any. I thought he replied to someone and said that.
Well, I think
it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, but I think the tweeter responded to Ron Gilbert's tweet, and like it was his tweet of the trailer, and the tweeter said, "I'm really excited for this, but like something along the lines of, but I'm a little sad that Tails is going to be decanonized." Or that I'm a little. I think it might have been about Guybrush and Marley getting married.
I know Ron's not a fan of that, and I understand that. I like it personally.
It was
but,
a specific thing about the canon from either Curse, Escape, or Tales that they liked.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, so I'm a little sad this is going against canon. And then Ron Gilbert responded to that saying, no, this is canon. So I think that is a sign that they're probably not expressly thinking about throwing away a lot of stuff after 2. That said, that's still vague enough unless it gets clarified more. I'm kind of on the boat of just assuming they'll try to do an all right job with not contradicting 3, 4, and 5, but they still kind of might. They still might go for it.
It's my opinion on that kind of flip-flop too, because at first I was kind of in that spot. I was like, oh, well, I really like what came after. But after thinking about it for a little while, I am just kind of like, no, just go ahead and do your own thing, Yeah. It doesn't, like I said with Crash 4, it doesn't make those, like, it basically just makes it like an alternate timeline. Because like anyone could come in and do a new Monkey Island game that takes place after Tales. Like that, it doesn't make it so it doesn't wipe those from existence. It just means this is like a branching path in the story, I guess. You can go either way.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of assumed that Star Wars would do this for a while, that they'd have like when they reset the canon in 2015. They had the legacy content and then the new canon, and I assumed like, oh, they might make some stuff for legacy canon, and they haven't done so much. They've done stuff like re-releasing video games that were old canon, and like they're not changing them to make them new canon or anything. They'll just re-release the games.
Yeah,
but there's not too much. I should not be publicly making any statements on Star Wars. I just thought about that. I'm out of my depth. Anyway,
never mind.
Everyone abandon ship. But I do agree with that for Monkey Island. That could essentially be how Monkey Island works. Like everyone else that covers the game in the future, because time is infinite. There's bound to be at least one more after this, probably. Given the next thousands of years of human civilization before we all die from global warming. Just the law of large numbers is too much in favor of there being other Monkey Island games and them not being made by Ron Gilbert. So with those in the future, put them after Tales, and then let this just be a trilogy unto itself. I think that's more valuable to have than another game that does come after Tales and references it.
I agree. At the end of the day, I'm more interested in seeing Ron's vision for a Monkey Island 3 than seeing what comes after Tales. Because I love Tales, but also, if the series ends with Tales, or like at least that version of the series, I'm cool with that. I kind of... like you said, there's bound to be another Monkey Island sooner or later, but I would have been fine if Tales was the ending of it. So, yeah, I'm more interested in seeing Ron's intended vision of... And another thing he said is the Monkey Island 3 he's making now is not necessarily the Monkey 3 he would have made back then. It's, he's a different person than he was back then. So
I almost want it to be,
I do wonder.
I almost kind of want it to be that crusty, like... Metroid Dread-esque, dug out of the trash, sort of old notes that they're reconfiguring into a video game. That would be kind of cool.
That would be. And I'm sure some of his ideas would stick around. I'm sure it's not like totally a different game.
Yeah, in fact, the one thing I'm almost sure of is that he's made multiple references to the fact that it was going to be a trilogy. And in the first game, LeChuck was going to be a ghost. In the second game, he was going to be a zombie. And in the third game, he was going to be a hell devil. And he's said that like multiple times, almost as if that's a trifecta of some sort. That's not like a group of 3 I know of, but sure.
It's like a Pokemon. It's like a 3-stage Pokemon.
Yeah, the way he says it is like, well, first you have ghosts, then zombies, then obviously
Once he's level 36.
And then the guy goes, I don't know what's the third of that. Demons. Yeah, demon. Obviously. Demon is the third of that. But he said that like so many times, which might just be 2 times, but I know it because it was more than once.
Well, they kind of did that in Curse even. He becomes this big fiery demon man.
They do it sort of in Curse, and they do some hell stuff sort of in Tales. Which, by the way, if you've been listening to us for this long, just blathering on about this non-Telltale game, thank you for your participation in our endeavors.
Yeah, sorry, Monkey Island is just way more interesting than CSI.
We will get to Tales of Monkey Island soon.
Yeah, someday.
Yeah, someday.
I assume we'll get there before this new one is out, maybe. I don't want to make that call.
I mean, they said this year, so...
Oh,
we're on the clock.
True.
I mean, I assume it's the end of the year.
I was thinking around summer, but I think that's just because that's around when the first special edition and Tales started, or were announced anyway at E3. So I guess I just associate it with summer.
Well, I mean, yeah, tropical island.
It totally could just whenever, anytime.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, actually, you know what? I will add Tales of Monkey Island onto the we should do these before we mess around just doing random stuff list. So it's been bumped up, but it's still not next.
Yay.
We'll get to next after we talk about the current game we need to talk about, which is CSI Hard Evidence, which came out in September, on September 25th, 2007, designed by Greg Land and Mark Darren, written by Max Allen Collins and Greg Land. We're talking about the 5th and final case, the Peacemaker. Here's the scene. Let me do the set dressing.
Ooh.
We're at a gun store, and there was a gun fight at the gun store.
No way.
Yeah, this is a combination gun store that sells real guns and also very campy replicas of Wild West stuff. Is that weird aspect of this pertinent to the case at all? It is not. It is not related.
Yeah, not once does a fake replica gun tie into the story.
No, these are all real guns. The guns that are involved in the actual case, all real. There was no mix up even for laughs at the CSI lab. It was all just real stuff. The suspect turned himself in. We haven't seen that before.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, right from the beginning, it sounds like we have our guy. But if that's the way the story goes, obviously it's not him.
Yeah, this is why I wrote this is the ultimate fuck you case in CSI history. Because we have Keith Wilde. Keith Wilde is the name of the suspect. And that should maybe be a little familiar if you've been paying way too much attention to our CSI episodes for this season. Keith Wilde says, "Yeah, I'm Keith Wilde. I did it. I shot that guy. Why? Because he needed shooting." That's a quote.
That's like the name of a reality show host.
And we should arrest this guy.
Yeah.
You should do that because his fingerprints were on the gun and he said so. Which means even if it wasn't true, he wants to be arrested, and why not just give him that?
Yeah, just take it. Even if it wasn't him, just whatever. I want to go home.
Well,
yeah, he wants to go to prison.
Yeah. But our partner this episode is Grissom, which...
Yeah, our friend Grissom.
He's too important at CSI. He's too much of a... But you gotta check absolutely everything and make sure. That kind of guy that...
He's a real stickler.
He's a rules guy. In addition to being
it's like when the teacher's watching you. It's like when the teacher's watching you do your work. It's like you got to do this case in front of Grissom, And the whole time you're just like, oh, man, can it be like Warwick or something?
Yeah. Have you ever in school been in a situation where like you have this essay and then you're talking with your friends about it and you're like, yeah, I'm actually kind of excited about this essay. I've chosen this topic. And then they say, oh, can I read it? And then all of a sudden you become incredibly not excited about your essay. And you think it's actually bad, and maybe you weren't actually very lazy the whole time and you didn't do anything. And then you're like, actually, no, no one should ever read this.
No, I don't think I can relate to that story. Not once have I ever said I'm really excited about this essay.
Okay. So moving on. I wrote down Officer Robertson. Do you remember this at all? I would not be surprised if no, because this is the only time you see the arresting officer who's not part of CSI. He's just like a police guy.
Right.
You see Officer Robertson take Keith Wilde away, and they like give him a name, and they give him a specific character model and everything, and some interesting animations where he's like, putting Keith's hands behind his back and pushing him. And then he's not even part of it. I thought they were showing us him because, the police guy's going to be the actual one that did it. Otherwise, why make that character model? Why do this at all?
Yeah, they didn't have to. They could have just, like, had Keith be brought in off screen, like always.
That's what they always do. They say, well, yeah, you have an arrest warrant, so now they are in the interrogation room. It just happened instantly. And
yeah, but this time you get to see the arrest happen.
Yeah, so what you find out is that Keith Wilde is Jill Wilde's son. Now, Jill Wilde, if you remember the last episode of this podcast, was the original lead singer of Bullet Train from Case 3.
Yeah. Marty Party, R.I.P.
Marty Party, rest in peace. We'll always love you. Now, Keith Wilde is not the only child of Jill Wilde. In fact, Jill Wilde, with Ray Wilde, also known as Boogie Feet, had triplets.
Yeah, 3 identical triplets.
Now, identical triplets are interesting because identical twins and triplets have the same DNA, which means that blood at the scene can be matched to them. So, of course, there's going to be some bullshit with that. Like, of course. You have Keith Wilde's blood at the scene, but now it could be any of the Wilde boys.
Any of them Wilde boys.
You've got Anthony, Billy, and Keith. And the thing that you keep hearing about them is that Keith Wilde is actually the least wild. So the fact that he would be the one...
Did you have that in your notes? Did you prepare that?
No, the game prepared it. It's a quote.
I don't remember.
Anthony says that about themselves. Anthony says, the thing about our brother Keith is actually he's the least wild. And then you have to move on from that.
And then the story must progress. You cannot linger on it.
Yeah. It's like a weird amount of introspection for this kind of game. So, also, though, you find out that the victim, the dead person at the gun store, was the cashier at the gun store and was Eddie Tillis Jr. Now, Ed Jr., his dad, Eddie Tillis, you'll remember him again from Case 3 as the producer of Bullet Train.
That's right. Now he's sad.
So, here's a lot of weird stuff going on. You have to match a ton of bullets. There's bullets in the walls. There's bullets in the ground. There's bullets in the windowsill. You gotta pick them up with a pair of tweezers. They're hard to see. And you gotta match them to the guns that shot them, so you can set up a laser grid in the store and see what happened, which gives Grissom some pause, even though it totally looks, from any realistic point of view, that Keith's story could be correct. He's like, no, it has to, and
he said, I've seen these CSI cases before. It's obviously not him.
Yeah, he knows. He knows it's not him. And he's convinced that there were at least 2 assailants here. There were at least 2 shooters, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I think it could be pretty easy to guess Anthony and Billy were the real shooters, and Keith, being the least wild, was taking the blame for them, like he always does. But
yeah,
that would be too clean. Because they have motive, right? It turns out that when Bullet Train died, the rights to all their songs in a Beatles-esque bidding scenario was they were passed down, the rights to the songs, to the Wild family. But Eddie Tillis is definitely thinking, oh, I actually deserve those songs because I would produce them all and I'm still alive, so why would I not have them anymore?
Just give me those songs. You're not using them.
They're an incredibly valuable asset, and the Wild family versus the Tillis family, it would make sense if Anthony and Billy killed Ed Jr. to try to force the point, hey, there are songs, you can't have any.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what happens. Dustin, what actually happens?
I 100% don't remember.
I thought so. It's wild, though. It turns out that Ed Jr. was sleeping with Jill Wilde. An age difference of at least 40 years.
Right. That's right.
And the Wilde sons, the 3 boys, went to the store to try to argue with Ed Jr. and say, hey, man, you can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that.
You can't be sleeping with our mommy.
You can't be sleeping with our mommy. That's off limits for young boys.
Come on, man.
They even bring Kathy Cantanta, who is the person who was actually arrested for Case 3, back, just so they can say that she also slept with Ed Jr.
She's like, yeah, everybody's doing it.
Everyone's sleeping with Ed Jr., which is, I think, their way of trying to, again, muddy the good track record of the deceased.
They can't just have the person who died be, like, a good person. Ever.
No, you can't.
Like,
you
not
can't
once.
Want to help them. You have to be forced with
once.
gameplay.
You have to fight tooth and nail against
Not
this.
once. Not once do they give you a good one.
Yeah, you would figure at least one of these people would just be like a normal citizen, just like a nice guy, but no, every single time it's, oh yeah, this person sucked, they were awful, and I'm glad they're dead. It's like, okay.
So they start roughhousing a little bit. They had guns, they didn't expect to use them, but Ed Jr. found a gun at the store because it looked like they were going to beat him up and he wanted self-defense. And then I think Anthony fired the first shot because he saw Ed Jr. pick up a gun and thought, okay, well, it's gun time. So Anthony and Billy were in the shootout. They shot Ed Jr. And then Keith also was there, but Keith just took the blame for everything because he felt that it was important for him to take the blame. They were all arrested, all 3 of them. Anthony and Billy for murder, and Keith for obstruction of justice, I guess.
I guess that doesn't seem like something he should be. If he didn't do it, like,
yeah, I don't know. You shouldn't be in prison for that.
Yeah, seems a little unfair.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the big finale to CSI Hard Evidence.
I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting.
Well,
I guess it kind of was. They brought back... So, in 3 Dimensions of Murder, in the last case, they brought back characters from multiple cases.
They brought back characters from 3 of the previous 4 episodes.
Yeah. This one only brings back characters from 1, which, on one hand, is still, doing something. It still makes it, a little more interesting than other cases. Yeah. But it still felt like a pretty flaccid note to end on.
Yeah, I guess this makes Hard Evidence the Bullet Train CSI game. This is the Bullet Train arc where
I
2
guess I'm glad
episodes of
that's
the
the
5 are plot critical and 3 are filler.
Yeah, I guess if any of them were going to be the one to follow up on, I'm glad it was Bullet Train.
Do you think so? Because I like the first 2 more.
Oh, I don't know.
I at least like the first one more.
I like 1. Yes, that one I agree with. I think as far as episodes go, I like 2 better than 3, but I just think 3 had so much, like, we laughed so much, and the character names, I remember everything about episode.
Yeah.
Episode 2 was just kind of weird, which is good. I like that it was weird. But episode 3 gave us Boogie Feet, Marty Party, and Steve.
Yeah, episode 2 is on some Kingdom Hearts shit, actually. Now,
Yeah.
now that I really remember it. You're right. This is the one to do. Although, I would have preferred 1. I would have preferred 1, but this is fine.
Yeah, this is still good. It would have been nice if they tied in the characters from it, just because episode 1 makes such a good first impression. Mm-hmm. It does kind of suck that as the episodes go, I like them less and less.
In The Wolf Among Us 2, they should have Bullet Train like posters and stuff in the background of like concert halls and stuff. I want Bullet Train.
Telltale references their old games sometimes. I don't think they've ever done CSI references.
We wouldn't know.
Bullet Train.
We definitely wouldn't know if
true.
they did do it.
That's very true.
Yeah, in fact, we did so many games that were released after Hard Evidence already because we're so behind on CSI compared to everything else that we might have already seen some and just passed it by.
That's true. Yeah. So is that it for this episode? I can't remember anything else.
We can talk about the game as a whole, which I want to do. I want to talk about a weekly guy.
Yeah,
for segments. The whole game.
For the whole
golden moment for the whole game might be hard. Actually, it's not. It's when Bullet Train gets shocked and you see it on camera. That's so funny.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have made it funnier is if you saw their like. Wait, do we see their skeletons when they get electrocuted? Is it like a cartoony electric?
I'm pretty sure you get like lightning bolt shaped yellow bits around them and stuff. You might see their skeleton. I don't know. I'd have to go back.
It's just so ridiculous, and the results of it are so funny too. Just this pile, of
wonderful
of bodies in this style.
Yeah, all without their shoes on, like Paul McCartney on the cover of Abbey Road. It's great.
It's so weird. There's definitely a story to it.
Well, it turned out there wasn't.
Yeah,
we got to the bottom of it, and it's not really. I mean, Kathy Cantanta just sort of tricked the sound guy, and that's it.
Yeah,
he was easily tricked.
Made an impression.
In her defense, he was too easily tricked. I would accidentally trick this guy for sure without needing to.
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
That's my bad.
No, when I said break a leg, I didn't assume you'd chop up Marty Party.
I thought I was talking to a smart person, but that's on me.
I thought we all graduated from 4th grade, but I can dumb it down next time.
Ouch.
So weekly guy though.
Weekly guy.
And don't just say Marty Party because of the name. It's not fair. It's not fair to the writers of this game.
So see, so you're asking for a weekly guy for the whole game, not just this week?
For the whole game.
For the whole
game. Let's just real quick, we can run through some major players of each case. Okay. So we've got Deborah and Liz, the lesbians in Case 1 Burning for You, in which them being lesbians was a very important plot point. We've got Ed Freeborn, also from Case 1 Burning for You, who is a like Knickerbocker homeless guy who is living in a golf course. We've got Nicole and Everett Brower, who are a really old money power couple in Las Vegas. We've got some other people from Case 2. We've got Bullet Train from Case 3. We've got Kathy Cantanta, who
That's a fun name.
Yeah,
to
it
say.
really is. Who organized the whole event, even though she didn't assume that it would also kill the band, which meant that she wouldn't have a band to sing in. She really didn't think that one through. But also, you can't assume that everyone else is also just gonna take their shoes off. You can't count on that. Anyone could make that mistake. You've got Eddie Tillis, the producer. You've got Jill Wilde, the lead singer of Bullet Train. You've got Warwick Brown, who is probably the only major character from the show I'm going to mention here, but we did like him a lot.
Yeah, Warwick's at least my favorite of the partners.
Yeah, for sure. In Your Eyes, our partner was Greg, and Prayat and Amita Banderit are the married couple. Prayat dies. Amita is the daughter. No, Amita's the wife. Ajay is the daughter. And Adarsh is the sort of up and coming, like in training guy under Prayat.
Mm-hmm.
And in Case 5, we've got Keith Wilde, Anthony Wilde, and Billy Wilde, Ed Jr., and all the other people that we've already seen.
All the others.
So, that's everything. What's the best character?
I think my favorite guy is Ed Freeborn.
Ed Freeborn's pretty good. Between Ed Freeborn, Ed Jr., and Eddie Tillis, there are 3 Eds in this game that were all made up for the game and not from the show.
That's like Ed, and Eddie.
Especially considering that Ed Freeborn is also known as Ed Danville.
That's good too. Yeah, he's just makes such a fun first impression. He's a funny character. That's one thing I'll give this game is overall this is a better package than 3 Dimensions of Murder, but I think they really did a better job with making these characters memorable. I couldn't tell you a single one from 3 Dimensions of Murder, but I'm gonna probably remember these guys for at least 5 minutes after we finish recording.
Oh, you know who we didn't talk about?
Who?
Todd, the sound technician in Shock Rock. We liked Todd a bit.
Yeah, Todd's good. Well, that's the guy who was easy to trick. We were just talking
Todd
about
and
him.
Kathy had first sex in Telltale.
Yeah, they win the award.
They might have last sex in Telltale. We'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, so I was gonna say they weren't the first in the games we played, at least, but I forgot this one came out before Sam and Max Season 3, where Sybil is pregnant.
Quite a bit before, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they win the award.
Well, Sybil being pregnant is not sex in a Telltale game. That's not the same.
Yeah, but that means they did have sex, I assume.
Every person existing is proof that sex was had, if that's what we're going off of.
Yeah, so nice try, Todd.
I think Todd still broke a barrier that Sybil did not. I think my weekly guy's got to be Warwick Brown. It's not a funny one, but like
Warwick Brown's great.
Warwick Brown did like actual smooth talking, clever detective work, which is the stuff that you would want to play this game for.
He was so good at it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. Can I get your autograph?"
Yeah.
And then immediately he's like, "We got to compare this to the note. We're gonna take her down." He's great. He just did his job perfectly. Everyone else just like tells us, "Oh, try to be more thorough, stupid."
Yeah, it's some real Agatha Christie stuff of like, "Oh, can you hand me that pen? Looks like you handed that with your left hand. I'm making a note of that."
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what Warwick Brown does, and he's all smooth about it. That's great. If that's what the show is, I'll take more of that, but I don't think it always is.
Yeah.
So that's we did our golden moment. That's when they get shocked, and those are our weekly guys. Not weekly though, more of a monthly guy this time for CSI Hard Evidence.
Yeah. You know what? I did give it to Ed Freeborn, but Warwick is my favorite helper, so he gets a second place.
Well, that's good, because I actually would have flip-flopped to Ed Freeborn if I couldn't do Warwick. Like, those are the two best ones in the game, I think.
Definitely.
Or Everett Brower is so funny. Everett Brower in Case 2, just this old money arch, like, I need a son to complete my legacy. That's the...
I don't know how they do things in the big city.
Well, I need a son. I can't be teaching business to a girl. Like, he's the most cartoony.
I see.
Yeah, he's basically Foghorn Leghorn. I like him a lot. In fact, I might.
Yeah.
No, I got to give it to Warwick Brown. I'll give it to Warwick Brown.
I think Warwick Brown is a character I can take more seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not into Everett Brower because I can take him seriously.
That's true.
I'm into him because he's the weirdest, like, Oliver Twist villain that they put into this otherwise somewhat grounded video game.
He seems so out of place. It's like he belongs in a different game, but they brought him into this.
Yeah, he's almost like the lord of the oppressive lord of a village in Dragon Quest or something. Like, he's eating all the chickens and the villagers are starving. Like like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
You know what? Something I'll say about this game? I think this game makes a very strong first impression, at least. It's not, like, great. It's still not a great game, but it improves on so many little things from 3 Dimensions of Murder.
Yeah.
That overall, I did not hate this game. It has its bad moments, it has its frustrating moments, but I think overall, this was a much smoother, more enjoyable experience than the first one was.
I think that we've said before that in a 5-episode season, the one with the most permission to be bad is episode 4, and they do time that correctly.
Yeah, episode 4 is just boring. There's not really a whole lot of laughs we got from it. Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting how, like, 2 people were confessing to the crime and you had to figure out which one actually did it, but it didn't, like, make it... I thought it was going to be interesting, but it wasn't.
You think I'm ready to think that's interesting? In the last case, we saw a band get electrocuted, and then 2 people in Wii graphics have sex on a plane. That I'm not ready to think did the mom or the daughter do it is interesting, especially when, like, the 3 brothers. So, like, which of them did it? They're like, because one of them confessed. That's, like, essentially the same thing, but, like, a little better in the last episode.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's CSI Crime Scene Investigation Hard Evidence. Technically, the name is CSI : Crime Scene Investigation. Like, that's the whole thing you need to say, because it explains the acronym inside of itself.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you enjoyed this one more than 3 Dimensions of Murder?
Of course.
Would you say it's better?
Yeah. I don't know for sure
the inventory...
if it's better because it wasn't the Sony port, where the Sony port specifically of 3 Dimensions of Murder had so many problems because it had no business being on the PlayStation 2 and just was doing that anyway. Where the Wii version is, I imagine, much more faithful to the PC version because they weren't forced to make it fully explorable. They were, because of the Wii remote, you could put the cursor on the screen just like the PC game does. So in having to change less, I bet it was just closer to the original vision and better. But we didn't play the PC version of 3 Dimensions of Murder, so who's to say? Maybe it is still a lot better, even with those changes in mind.
Right. Maybe they'll just keep getting better as they go. Who knows?
Yeah, but we're not going to do that right now. In fact, next week on this podcast, on Telling the Tale, this channel, this time period, we're finally gonna do it. Since before we started the podcast, we've had the specter of The Wolf Among Us 2 hanging above us saying, hey, eventually this game is going to come out. You need to be caught up. Neither of us have played it. And now we're finally going to do it. Episode 1 of The Wolf Among Us starts next week. We'll see you then.
I can't wait to play Among Us.